Tons of people love amusement parks. I, for one, I like the excitement and the feel of amusement park. I'm not one for the rides though. Usually that just makes me sick and I panic, so.
My heart rate just spiked.
I like the feel, but otherwise, the rides just aren't for me. Today we're going to talk about a different side of amusement parks. Something darker, not the joyous family fun time parks, but the ones abandoned due to gruesome rumors, or maybe just simply abandoned for unknown reasons. Maybe you've heard of some of them, or maybe you even live near one. First one on the list is Lake Shawnee Amusement Park. Now I do want to preface this and all the soon to be said stories by saying that some of the information may be inaccurate or just entirely fictional stories made up by the general, but I did my best, you son of a f. Now Lake Shawnee is located in Kansas. It's a very, very small amusement park that has a pretty horrible story all around. The story takes place in the late 17th century with Mitchell Clay, supposedly brought his family to the land of Kansas and started a family and a farm and continued to grow. In roughly 1783, a Native American tribe killed 2 of the Clay children while Mitchell was out hunting. With the help of other settlers, Mitchell sought out the natives, tracking them down and killing them. Some years went by and the neighbors in the Clay settlement grew, still scarred from the tragedy of these events, and remained quiet until about the 1920s. Conley Snitto Sr. came into the picture around then, where him and the Clays decided to come together and create an amusement park to attract people. The park was really small. You don't expect anything big for the 1920s. All it had was supposedly a pool, some swings, and a concession stand, and of course the lake that was nearby too. They opened their doors in 1926. Even as small as it was during the time that the park was open, unfortunately a young boy drowned due to his arm being stuck in the drain in the pool. Another young person also passed away by drowning in the nearby lake, and then a young girl also lost her life from a truck that had backed up into the swings at that park, unfortunately costing her life. Multiple deaths occurred under Snitto Sr. and Snitto Jr.'s watchful eye. Wasn't very watchful apparently. The amusement park did manage to last till 1967 when it finally closed its doors to a failed health inspection of all things, and then later in the 80s a man named Gaylord White Gaylord wanted to develop the land basically into communities, into future neighborhoods. As the construction crews did come in and they started digging up the land, they kind of started unearthing some artifacts. Archaeologists believe that there was people long before the Clays ever settled there, possibly being an ancient burial site. Now, burial sites, in my opinion, exist everywhere. Most likely even where you live or the land that you live on or anything, most likely multiple deaths have occurred. Maybe not being a legitimate burial site, but most likely people have died on most parts of the land, I think, at this point.
Oh no!
To my knowledge, some of the park actually does still remain to this day. However, it is on closed property. The lake itself has no swimming. If you live in Kansas, maybe you've heard about it or you've heard some other stories, let me know. Nara Dreamland. This was going to be Japan's very own Disney, located near Nara, Japan, and it was concocted by a man named Kanuzo Matsuo. Hopefully I pronounced his name correctly, but after visiting the US, some believe he had spoken to Walt Disney himself and that they had planned to have this as a joint venture, but as far as I could find, there isn't really any proof Matsuo had ever actually directly talked to Walt Disney. Regardless, Dreamland was heavily inspired by the original Disneyland in Anaheim, California. Opened in 1961, not long after the first Disney World opened over in California in 1955, only 6 years difference. Having many similarities to the original, the castle is almost a direct one-to-one copy. It even had Main Street, its own Matterhorn style ride. The Matterhorn is a bobsled ride that was over in the Anaheim or the California Disney. They even had their own mascots for the park. It was Ran-chan and Dory-chan. Now they were just children dressed as bearskin guards. I would imagine if they tried to use any Disney characters that, well, we all know Disney. And Disney don't fuck around. So I suspect that's why it wasn't a one-to-one when it comes to the mascots. Here I found a map online that is believed to be Dreamland. If anyone can let me know if I found the right map. I unfortunately cannot read or speak Japanese, so I don't know what's all here, but this does look very similar to the layout of the park. Dreamland finally succumbed in 2006. It lasted for quite a while. That's what, They could have sold or maybe repurposed some of the park, but unfortunately it was just left as it was and completely abandoned. Dreamland was closed. It did become kind of a somewhat popular little attraction after it was closed for people wanting to come and visit it. Eerie, as nature kind of started taking it back, as people kind of vandalized it and started graffitiing all over the place. It did become a pretty popular little spot for the dilapidated, eerie, kind of ghostly vibe that it then presented. Dreamland was eventually demolished in 2016-2017 area, and it no longer exists. It's just a barren little land of where it once existed. Oako Land. Oako Land is a small amusement park that was located outside Oakpo-dong, South Korea. In a small amusement park with an almost more impressively short lifespan, it only lasted from 96 to 99, barely even surviving 3 years. Oako Land's duck ride seems to be the one that's mentioned in most of the online articles. Allegedly, the ride derailed and crashed into the asphalt, costing children their lives. Now, there are multiple areas, articles, places online that I've read this. However, I don't really see any actual documents or anything that actually back this up. I have seen other articles that claim or theorize that the owner of the establishment refused to take any accountability or anything for these accidents that occurred in the park, and basically just after multiple accusations, the owner just up and disappeared, never to be seen again, and then basically led to the park just being closed because no one now owned the park. Now, you can find images, articles online talking about this park and many of the theories on why it closed, but unfortunately in 2011 it was closed and a hotel was built over top of it. Back to Japan, to Gulliver's Kingdom. Another park that unfortunately was abandoned in Japan. Gulliver's Kingdom is based on the book Gulliver's Travel, written by Jonathan Swift way back in 1726, almost overnight becoming a huge success that is well known to this day, almost 200 years later. Now, the park only existed for a whopping 4 years. Not the shortest on the list, but by no means the longest. Gulliver's Kingdom was unfortunately shut down in 2001 and was later demolished in 2007. The park, after it had closed, kind of became a little hotspot for the creepy and horror enthusiast, having a kind of uncanny aura in general. Supposedly the park closed due to a defunct job program. Another reason could have been because of its neighbors. The job program, I believe, was supposed to help give more jobs to the local community, but I suppose it just fell through, if that even is the real case. Going with its neighbors, some believe the park just closed because it didn't have enough attraction or enough visitors coming to the park. Some of its neighbors are kind of have creepy stories in themselves. One of them is the Aokigahara Forest. Most of you guys probably know it already by another name. Now, it is located only roughly about 25 minutes from this forest. It's pretty damn close. A very beautiful forest, but it has unfortunately also been associated with something else, something a little bit darker as well. Another nearby neighbor is Kamakushiki Village, a village that is supposedly home to the notorious Shinrikyo?
Fucking diabolical.
A doomsday cult, basically founded by a gentleman named Shoko Asahara in 1987. Some members of this religious group were found to be related to multiple violent attacks in the late 90s. Going back to Gulliver's Kingdom, it was demolished in 2007 and also no longer exists. Was it the shadow of its nearby visitors keeping away, or was it just failing financial loss? We most likely will never know the reason, and the park's just gone. Daddy Park, Belgium. Now, this one might be my favorite on the list, although I found all of them pretty interesting, to be honest. Moving over to our friends in Europe, once known as the oldest park in Europe, Daddy Park started as nothing more than a playground back in the 1950s. It transformed into Daddy Park, becoming a huge success, having slides, kiddie rides, and an infamous water slide. Lasting for over 50 years, Daddy Park closed in 2002 due to renovations, supposedly, but those renovations never came. Many believe the real reason Daddy Park closed was due to a tragic and gruesome incident. This park was considered a wonderland in many ways, and children loved it. The infamous water ride mentioned, called the Nautic Jet or the Wasserbad, the ride was a very popular attraction, but unfortunately, the same ride that was its biggest attraction became the park's downfall. A young boy's arm while riding the Nautic Jet was unfortunately ripped off during the ride.
What? What the fuck?
People started leading to believe the park was unsafe, and you know, I can only imagine that led to an immediate decline in visitors. According to articles and everything online, I believe this accident actually happened in 2000. So all in all, relatively recently. The boy was supposedly 9 years old, and basically means this boy is most likely in his 30s now, so he's very, very likely walking around and alive. They claim that the rides are still functional, but it's kind of hard to believe, to be honest. From pictures from the last 10-ish years, you can clearly see Mother Nature is taking it back. Creating another place of eerie vibes. If I was or became a ghost, to be honest, I'd probably haunt one of these places. They're pretty fucking cool. The feelings that these places kind of invoke after being abandoned for so long are just, I don't know, I like it. I feel like it'd be like seeing an abandoned mall too, but the amusement park almost has a cooler feel to it. Don't get me wrong, I would probably shit my pants if I was there alone at night, but the idea, the premise, and everything is still really cool. It's unfortunate that a lot of these places have been completely wiped off the map. I feel like there's a little part of history that resides in these old parks, but them being completely wiped off the map means we probably won't ever know the true story.
And it's gone.
Like many things, they will fade into history textbooks, or in this digital age, they'll completely just be gone. It's an unfortunate reality, especially I feel like nowadays things are just come and go so quick that there isn't a lot that stays around that's just going to be memorable. Maybe in those local communities where these stories took place, but anyway, these were some really cool amusement parks that I found that have been abandoned. Unfortunately, a lot of them have been demolished, like I said, but if you guys know anyone or you want to see some more creepy cool parks, let me know down in the comments. I definitely appreciate you guys. If you like, comment, subscribe, do all those fun things, and let me know what you find creepy. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.